Welcome, Sacred Travel friends. Today, I want to speak about something that is very, very dear to my heart. And I want to take a moment to welcome everybody who is new here and also everybody who is tuning in over and over again. Thank you for being here. And if my content resonates with you, you would do me the biggest favor if you subscribe, leave a review, or just engage and like. Thank you. So I've been called to the Rose Path, I don't know how many years back, and I've been reflecting on that because I wanted to share a little bit about what the Rose Path actually is, why I feel that it is more and more evolving these days, and how we can walk this path. So, with my reflection, there's many things that I want to share in this episode, but I guess it's going to be an overlay of an outer map and an inner map, because it's always coming back of the as above, so below, as within, so without, right? And I feel that there are journeys that change where you change the location, but there are also journeys that change your entire internal architecture. And I know that in a lot of episodes, I talk about that per se, but within the field of the Rose frequency and the Magdalene frequency, I specifically want to dive into a couple of these, not just locations, but also, just the stream as a living field of memory itself. So this episode is not necessarily only a travel story, but I really want to invite you into your own body to remember for yourself if there is something ancient stirring within you. Because walking the Rose Path is not only about visiting sites, it's really about recognizing a current that's already living and running through you and through your body. And for me, it was actually the case long before I even had a name or a language for it. So while you're listening, maybe also just tune in and go back and retrospectively check the different points in your life, the different moments where something came up where at the time you didn't know what it was, but now it all makes sense. And the Rose Path, it can sound very romantic in the spiritual sense as well. But what it actually is, it's the initiatory geometry into your soul's evolutionary journey, meaning not just in this lifetime, but over the span of many incarnations, and a map to your body's inherent intelligence and wisdom, because there's so much more than we know and that we are trained to see, to believe, to be true. And it's not something that I want to go deeply into, but we can't speak about the Rose Path without mentioning Venus, of course. So above, that path is mirrored by the Venus cycle of ascent and descent. And below, here on Earth, this is encoded in your body. So Venus as a morning star and Venus also as an evening star, which is the descent into matter and the ascent towards consciousness, the light body, your light being, your activated Merkaba. And she makes a 5-pointed rose, notice the pentagram, tracing in an 8-year cycle across the sky. And long before I knew about this, or let's say when I knew about this, I could track how different stages in my life in terms of what happened, what I was reclaiming, or also what I was letting go of, how that would coincide with the Venus path, more or less, because we are attuned to these frequencies, to these cycles. So if you want to dive a little bit more into this one, there is great resources and also great books about that. So when I look back at my own life, my travels, but also initiations just in my day-to-day life or the callings that I had, I really see that Venusian pattern would be woven through all of the tapestry of my life. And rather than me choosing it, now I want to say that it chose me. It wasn't a conscious choice of I'm going to connect with Mary Magdalene, I'm going to connect with Venus. It was more like a deep, deep inner calling for more. and for a deeper path, a deeper wisdom. So the Magdalene consciousness, I really see it reawakening, and with it also these ancient healing techniques and these initiatory pathways, that it is the feminine holding the template of dreaming, but also of weaving and birthing a new reality into place, into reality, with the divine masculine, of course. And I am hosting a free masterclass this upcoming Sunday, 7 p.m. CET. Check your time zone. The return of the Magdalene Serpent healers. So if you're listening to this, it's very likely that you have some intertwinings with the Rose Path and the Magdalenes as well. So click the link below to sign up and join us in that field of joint remembrance. And when I go, look at my own travels, and it's not necessarily places that are super loud or prevalent. There's also a lot of more quieter places that, again, I didn't seek out consciously necessarily, but I just stumbled across them. Because maybe a grove that was dedicated to Mother Mary, or there is a place in Switzerland, it's called Pyramide de Zenya. It's earth pyramids. And when I was there and I was visiting, I was like, whoa, this place is so Mother Mary energy. And of course, it didn't hold any sign. It didn't say anything about it, but it's just that connection and that current of wisdom, of energy that is running through a place that you feel as a reverberance in your body. And so I want to invite you that not every place that has a name tag necessarily is connected. There is so many beautiful forests, streams, maybe an elder tree, a rose garden, an apple orchard, where this wisdom lives as a living stream of consciousness in the earth. And when you connect to that, when you pick that up, you are a daughter of a Magdalene, you are a Magdalene, you are a watchtower yourself. So my first, really conscious recognition of that was in a dear place in Switzerland that is called the Valley of the Light. I also lead solstice rituals and retreats there. And there, the connection to the Pleiades and to Sirius has always felt very, very strong. It's just the light comes in at any kind of season that you go there. It's very beautiful. And there is an amazing panoramic hike. You walk all the way a path, and right on the cliff there is a teeny tiny chapel, and it wasn't even open for a very long time. And, it's nothing spectacular, but just the way that it's built, directly on the edge of the cliff. And again, how the light was coming in, and I was like, oh my God, what a place. So I stopped and I had a rest. I put my back against the chapel wall, and we couldn't even go in there the first time, or I couldn't even go in there. And then when I was done, I meditated a little bit and just was soaking up the energy because it was so beautiful and I felt so recharged. And then I continued my walk, and all of a sudden, I see that very small sign. It was more like a hiking sign where they said, it's the chapel dedicated to Anna. And I didn't think about it big time back then. And just a little later, I started to read the book Anna, Grandmother of Jesus, where it clicked. And I'm like, oh boy, it was her all along. And on the hike was what was so beautiful. And this is also one of my favorite things about this valley and about this place, because it's a natural repository of crystals. There is huge quartz bands, so you find quartz, smoky quartz, clear quartz, also some other types of crystals. And by now, I've made very good friends with a mining family, and they have showcases all over the mountain where you can literally just open and you pick a crystal, you see if you like it, and you put some money into the little box. I haven't found that anywhere else. This is things that you find in Switzerland. people trusting, and also it's very, I know where the crystals come from. It's very good quality. They're like charged with these high vibrations of the light. But anyways, and so it coincided that I had started a priestess training, and one of the tasks was to find a priestess crystal. And so as I pass this chapel and I come to that vitrine with the crystals, I pass by. I didn't really think of it, and I just look at them, and one was really calling me, but I didn't get it. And so I pass on, I continue my hike, and I'm maybe like half an hour down the pathway at a beautiful, glittering blue lake where it struck me, and I was like, you gotta go back. Like, you gotta get that crystal. This is your priestess crystal. And I hear that voice, and I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, I'm already past. Like, no. And they were like very persistent, and I just knew, like, internally it was this pull to go back. So I went back, I got the crystal, and then later on, of course, like finding that it carries the Anna energy, it carries the Roseline energy. It's very special to me up till that day, and it has traveled to many places, including Egypt with me, like being charged in all the temples and like really holding my personal rose frequency and my connection in my body, but also, beyond, like in the physical travels. So to me, it really felt like a reclamation. And even if at the time I didn't really understand what that was, or something felt irrational to me, it's an awakening inside where you're like, oh, okay, let's do it. Let's just trust. And then later, the logical understanding drops. So it's these both pathways. And a lot of what the Magdalene energy does, it's you feel it in your body first before the current of the logic or the logos in a way kicks in. So it's that embodied truth. And also many signs and symbols that had been speaking to me. We would go to South Tyrol, for example, and we would drive along a highway that was Highway 22. And for those of you who know or might not know, like 22, just by the numerology, it's a master builder. It's 22 Hebrew letters. It's 22 pathways on the tree of life. But so it's architecture, but it's also the number of the Magdalene. It's the number of the Rose Path and of Mary Magdalene. And so whenever, of course, I see 22, I'm like all over. Or I would look at the clock and it was like 222, for example. So if you're getting things like that, it's just the universe speaking to you in a way that not your mind can understand, but your body, your frequency field picks it up. And, I get a lot of questions of people who are like, oh, what does it mean? What does it mean? And I always ask back, like, what does it mean to you? Because, of course, there is kind of like an underlying, I want to say, like general meaning. But what's even more important is, what does it mean to you? Like, do you feel seen? Do you feel held? Do you feel guided? Do you feel that you're on the right track? Then this is great. Have you ever looked at a place and felt, this is really mine to go. This feels like home. And even if you haven't ever been there, certain lands call you. Certain temples move you from the inside out. Certain landscapes feel like a memory, like a soul home. And this is not accidental, because your soul has a travel signature. And some people travel to protect sacred spaces. Others travel to awaken rose wisdom, or to listen deeply, or to go to places where your ancestors have once dwelled to retrieve that wisdom back into the present. So when you understand how your soul journeys, everything shifts. The places that you choose, the experience that you seek out, and the way that you move through the world. If you're curious where your soul actually travels and how, then take the Sacred Travel Quiz. It's a doorway into understanding yourself and your travel soul signature on a deeper level. The link is waiting for you, so click below. there's all these different signs and symbols, and not just the rose as a symbol, but also the rose as a plant, as a flower. It's the being with the highest vibration on the planet. So every time that we connect with the rose, with the scent, with the texture, we are putting ourselves in that higher frequency state as well. So I want to invite you to really allow these signs and symbols to permeate your field, so you can pick up like how geometry speaks, how frequency speaks, how the universe is putting language into something that we as humans might have forgotten, but it's actually there. We're sensing it. We are perceiving it with all our sensitivity. And this is another pathway that the Magdalene frequency, the Magdalene Reiki when I started really opens. But let's go to some other places first. As I said, there is definitely these more prevalent rose lineage places. So Avalon would be one of them. And again, like this was a book, The Mists of Avalon, that I have read in my teen years, of course, not knowing anything about it. And I know so many women, like priestesses, witches, wise women who read that and felt really like home. And a dear friend of mine, she's like, oh, if that would have been my, or was like an actual lived religion, that would be mine. And she came to my circles and she said that. And I'm like, well, it actually is. Like, welcome, you're in it. So, I also want to say, and this is something that I've been tapping into lately, deeply, 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 specifically like with what's happening on the planet. And this is not from a state of bypassing, but like choose your reality and only play in your reality and in your frequency field, because it's very important that we have these pillars of light and the frequency holders whilst everything else is falling apart. And Magdalene Reiki, not as an energy healing modality, but a living map into how to become that watchtower and how to hold more light and how to really architect the reality in the way, of our capacity, is a complete new layer that opened up. So if you're called, if you're curious, then join the upcoming Masterclass this Sunday, the return of the Magdalene Serpent Healers, where we go into all of that. I'm very excited about that because also I feel it's so needed right now. So there's Avalon. And when maybe it was the first like conscious step to go to Avalon in terms of like tracing the rose line, where for me it was really about reconnecting with the tour and with these different lineages of where Mary Magdalene actually comes from, and then tracing her consciousness all the way up to the Celtic lands. And the tour, specifically the tour, also the Red and White Springs, but specifically the tour for me was such a heart-opening moment. And that was like, looking back now, for me, the first moment where my Merkaba, like my light body and the geometry of, the Star of David, basically, ignited, because I was so plugged into the earth, and at the same time, like it felt like my chest and everything, my heart space was open, like blast open wide. And dragons all over. And there is a strong link, strong connection of the Magdalene wisdom, like the feminine wisdom, and the dragons as the primordial, not teachers, but creators, and the dragon mother, Tiamat, of just like the creation of this earth and also the creation of everything. And like my mind goes like, oh, I want to go there. I want to tell you the story. But anyway, so let's stay here. So in line with the Magdalene consciousness that is rising, you may have also noticed that the dragon current is rising. So if you haven't connected to your personal dragon, I highly recommend you do, because you probably have one, and it wants to talk to you and it wants to create with you. So from that place, I also went to the Isle of Iona, which is in Scotland in the Hebrides, and it's not so well known, but it's such an amazing womb space portal. And you might have heard me talk about it because this was actually the place where I conceived that podcast. So it's very linked to the podcast and the energy of creation. And up there at the Fountain of Youth, Bridget's pool, I had an amazing, like really mind-bending epiphany about Bridget and Mary Magdalene like being one and the same and being connected into the same stream, whereas before, like, my mind was trying to wrap itself around it, and I'm like, I don't know. But when you are in these places where really the veils like lift and time and space converges, and you're literally in that portal in a vortex, and you, from like a physical place, energies are opening, portals are opening, and you can go to different places where you have access to a greater wisdom, again, like through all the antennas that your body already has. They're there. You just got to train them a little bit and fine-tune them a little bit. The field of reality expands immensely. Yeah. So I did a couple of these travels before, also meeting my dragon in Milano in Italy in a place called Del Sacro Cuore, which is the Sacred Heart. And it showed me in a meditation like this beautiful, huge dragon heart. And some other places. Also, actually, the place where I live, close to Constance, is a deep, deep Magdalene place. I discovered a Magdalene chapel in the big Notre Dame that we have a couple of years back, and I go there sometimes even to attune people to Magdalene Reiki, and it's just so amazing. What I want to say is that you can travel to these places and you can have amazing experiences already. For me, a combination of the places and the lineage as I trained deeper with Magdalene Reiki just unlocked a whole new chapter. And why? Why? So again, and I want to reiterate that over and over again, Magdalene Reiki is, and I've trained in many different energy healing modalities, also attuning people. Magdalene Reiki to me is more than a modality. It's a modality that you learn, but it's actually a map. It's a living map to recognize, to understand, and to direct or become the energetic architect of your reality, and fine-tune all of your antennas, all your senses, your clear senses, in a way that you gain more access to life in its many layers. Like, there's many dimensions, right? If you think of just one situation, 2 people or even 5 people, everybody has a different reality or a different fractal or a different aspect. So how can we have access, I'm not going to say to all of that, but to more of it? So if this is something that you're curious about, then come join the free masterclass this Sunday. The link is below. Vézelay was a place in France, in the middle of France, where something really, really profound opened for me. And I had trained with Magdalene Reiki before. So I was, what happens also is that you, again, like, get a deeper initiations into the lineage, right? And so it is wisdom, like embodied wisdom, that is being passed down, and that is held or being held in a living archive or frequency field that is so alive and pulsing. So when I was there, like, meditating in the crypts, I got a vision, and actually also an assignment about a Magdalene Dragon Rose mandala. And they were showing me how there's different nodes on the planet, dragon nodes and Magdalene nodes. And how they need to be reconnected. So how I was saying earlier, or we maybe know all, the stories where it's like the dragon is the threat to the feminine, is the threat to the princess. And it's actually not true. Like the dragon is and was always the protector of the dragon. It's just the distortions of control mechanisms and power that killed the dragon. So this is something that we as Magdalenes, as these beacons of light, as these frequency holders, get to restore. And if you're listening to this, I had a beautiful conversation with a friend yesterday from the US, and she was like bursting in tears when she told me that she actually realized that she'd been traveling and doing grid work all her life without knowing it. And that happens to many of us. So yeah, just tune into that wisdom that you are already holding on a deeper level. And then I also went on like my many visits to Greece on Rhode Island. I was visiting the monastery of Tsambika, and what you see up there is the Virgin Mary with fire balls, flames coming out of her hands. And that was a moment where it struck me like in my body, like from the truth of my bones, that like it's about the chakras in the hand, right? But then in the Magdalene lineage, you train with your star fire, which is your blood, but it's actually the life-giving essence in the blood. And so it's, again, a lot about energy and that the celestial wisdom, the light that we carry inside. And so when I saw that, I was like, whoa, that was another layer of starfire awakening in my own body, like that solar current also in a way that ignited within. And this is things that also when you train in Magdalene Reiki, I feel the body, like, first of all, there's a safety and a sense of calmness that you give yourself permission to really feel what you've been feeling. And I bet when you're listening to this, like everybody as a kid, you had visions, you were sensing things, you were seeing things, you were maybe even hearing things, you were speaking to your imaginary friends, which were not your imaginary friends because they might have been your guides or your ancestors or anybody else, any beings of the light, hopefully. But what I'm saying is that we unlearn these things and we learn that it's not safe to talk about this, it's not safe to actually feel this, and then we shut it off. And Magdalene Reiki puts you back into that blueprint state of that this is your natural way of being, this is your natural way of communicating with the universe and reality. So claim that back. And when we do that, I mean, I had this recurring dream, and I remember it very vividly when I was a child. I could always fly in my dreams, like always, always, always. And there was a time where I tried it, but it just stopped. And every time I tried, I would fall down and hit the ground hard. And Magdalene Reiki established, not just like reestablished and allowed me to remember that this is possible, but it opened up new layers. So honestly, right now in my dreams, there's not even, I don't recall a dream that I'm not levitating or not flying. And not to say that, this is how it needs to turn out for you, but it gives you access to different states of consciousness where things become true that in a dense reality, it's hard to believe. And when you live in these times of destruction, of war, of like just not just chaos, but literally like trauma and these brutalities everywhere, we are affected because we feel it, like we are a part of that and we are hurting ourselves. So how can we at the same time like hold this and be the witness, but also hold the frequency so everybody can up-level and be free ultimately? So coming back to that ancient body technology, last year I held co-guided the first pilgrimage in Sainte-Baume, which is said to be Mary Magdalene's mountain, and where she ascended with the angels. And I understood that it's not a story. It's a frequency. Like, it's the angels and angelic beings are a frequency state that are also not separate from us. There is kind of like an order, but they're not separate. So we can totally do that. And so going up and down that mountain for an entire week, every single day, sometimes multiple times a day, I got a whole new, and not just understanding, but also embodied piece of how, these concepts of levitation, telepathy, like all of these altered and really highly advanced states of consciousness. It's not stories. It's not myth. It's not a concept. Like, this is true. This is reality. And we used to live in that way. And that also coincided with me watching the movie Wicked, where Elphaba starts lifting up and sings the song Defying Gravity. And there was a moment, again, like that truth-hitting moment from inside where I'm like, this is true. Like, this is possible. I just need to find out how. So, yeah, I deeply, deeply want to encourage you, everything that you feel, everything that you sense, your sensitivity, this is not a problem. This is real. It's only a problem if you allow that to turn against yourself. If you learn how to harness it, if you learn how to direct it and to claim it and own it as a superpower, it changes your whole trajectory. And of course, Egypt. I mean, Egypt is a whole different level. And I bet many of the places that I have mentioned, there is at least one or many where your heart goes like, whoa, this is calling me. So if this is the case, or you have another place that is calling you, you are definitely a rose code carrier, and you are a beacon of light and a frequency holder. So I'm inviting you to explore that deeper. And if you want to know a little bit more and maybe receive next steps for your path, I created a quiz that is taking you deeper into how your soul travels. So you can take that. The link is below, or you also find it on my website. And Egypt ties in a lot with Greece as well. And I've been, fortunate enough to visit a couple of other like Greek islands. And one of the islands that is so fascinating because of its history and because of the energy that is stored there is Kos, which is the birthplace of Asclepius, founder of modern medicine. And I began to understand the serpent medicine in a very, very different way, and also dream incubation, because this is what they used to work there. And this was a time when spirit and the science, or maybe the medical aspect of medicine, was not separated. It was not fractured. It was all together. So the rod of Asclepius, if you think of it like the staff with the serpent, it's not a logo that was invented. It's the ascent of consciousness through the spine or up the spine. So the hidden knowledge, like from the serpent, from the kundalini, the forgotten wisdom, and it's the serpent granting access to the knowledge of the tree of life. So there is that strong connection to the Magdalenes. And although, yes, Asclepius was a male founder, but it's always both, right? It's the masculine and the feminine coming together. And then there's the connection to the therapeutae in Egypt, which was a part of an Essene, like very spiritual, high advanced community that also Mary Magdalene, probably Yeshua, and it was said that also other of the Magdalenes were part of that. So you see how also through history there is that strong connection as these ancient healers. They weren't energy workers, but they were also field stabilizers. So it's like sound, geometry, and ritual, and all of these were used to really recalibrate coherence. And why I'm saying that and reiterating that over and over again, yes, you can go to the temples and have your own like mind-blowing moment, which is beautiful. But the time that we are in now, we are, first of all, we're accelerating. So what it needs from us is that we come into a place where we more or less stabilize our own field rather quickly. And so we become a tuning fork, we become a frequency holder for the greater field, for the collective. And that is also understanding how the reality forms around frequency, around your own frequency, your own state of consciousness. And that's where everything, I guess, begins to reframe. So all about the rose path, it's not, emotional mysticism. It's really architectural. It's energy architecture and another layer of reality that has been hidden from us, but is coming back. And so the rose reality really opens, and it's a word that you might have not heard, but it's something that we also speak about in the lineage, like the rose reality. And it's not like putting on your rose-tinted glasses. That's not what it is. The rose reality opens when you train in the lineage in Magdalene Reiki. And that puts into perspective your sensitivity, your clairs, your felt sensations with your surroundings in a way that is neither overwhelming nor scary, but naturally opening you and plugging you back in to the net, your field of perception and reality itself. So when you understand to speak the language of the universe, then life suddenly gets so much easier, and there's ease and grace, beauty and spaciousness, and also abundance unfolding naturally, and liberation and freedom for everyone. So the rose is not just a flower symbol. It's really a multi-dimensional map inside and out. It's also the petals that are unfolding in layers. It's the spiral path, spiral intelligence. It's the thorns of your boundaries and also the softness coexisting. So the coexisting contradicting truths, allowing your nervous system to integrate both. It's also a map to really integrate fractaled realities and fractaled identities, because we tend to cast out, I tend to cast out. So it's never about really leaving the body, but it's about inhabiting the body fully and allowing more light into the body to embody, to become the embodiment of light, to become the embodiment of a Magdalene, which is a title, and it means watchtower. So if you're curious to learn more about that, then I am warmly inviting you into my masterclass that is coming up this Sunday. It is free. It's on 7 p.m. CET. Check your time zone, and you can click the link below and sign up for that. Also, if you are already knowing that you do want to go deeper, the Magdalene Reiki certification is up, so you can scan the code and you'll be directed to the website directly, and you can sign up and join us in the field of remembrance. So thank you so much for journeying with me today. Yeah, I'm very excited about that, because for everybody who gets a felt sense right now, it's not a modality that you add to your portfolio. It's really to stabilize what is already within you. And also if your body longs to walk physically where this current runs the strongest, which is for me currently Sainte-Baume, the lands of the Magdalene, then you can join me in France this summer, because some codes are really remembered through travel and when we put our bodies and the frequency of our bodies, merging them with the frequency of the land. So the rose path is not about becoming something new. It's about embracing and integrating all that you are and anchoring yourself into the blueprint of your divine essence. And from that coherence, creating, architecting your reality as you were always supposed to be. And if this episode met you, then I'd be grateful if you leave a 5-star review so this transmission can travel further. Share it with another Magdalene Rose sister, and I will meet you in the Rose Temple. As always, stay curious and try to escape the ordinary, seeking out the extraordinary.